Today we have a lot of flocking material to go through. This is flocking crazy. Hey, what's up, s'mores? I'm Shannon Morse. Welcome back to Snubs on Security, which is the show where I spill the tea and I share my caffeinated opinions on all things cybersecurity and hacking. We've got a lot of updates on flocking cameras today, a big museum heist, and satellite hacking. Cool! Everything is fine. Yeah. Also, this video is sponsored by Delete Me. Go over to joindeleteme.com/morsecode to find a sweet discount, which is just available for my viewers. And stick around to learn more about why I recommend Delete Me. All right, let's say that somebody on the ground with an $800 dish could eavesdrop on your calls, your texts, your airline Wi-Fi, power grid chatter, and even military movements, all from satellites. Sounds a little bit sci-fi, right? Well, researchers from University of California, San Diego and the University of Maryland, College Park spent a few years pointing a consumer-grade satellite receiver at space. What they found, roughly half of the geostationary satellite communications they could monitor were not encrypted. That means that calls, texts, internet traffic, industrial control commands, even military and law enforcement data were being broadcast in ways that anyone with the right kit could capture. Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. So in one 9-hour stretch alone, the dish monitored unprotected satellite backhaul for a big US carrier, logging more than 2,700 phone numbers, calls, and texts passing through remote towers. And yes, military sea vessels, Mexican aircraft maintenance logs, facility control systems for offshore oil rigs, and national utilities also showed up in their data. Now here's why this is a concern if you haven't figured this out already. Satellite communications are supposed to be one of the more secure backbones for global infrastructure. Like, they connect the remote, the mobile, like airlines and ships, the mission critical, yet here we are with whole swaths exposed. The barrier to doing this is shockingly low, like shocking. $800 in gear, a rooftop dish, and off-the-shelf software. The research paper even called it "don't look up" because the default security mindset just seems to be nobody's gonna bother. What's the problem? Now, the worst part is the numbers suggest they only captured maybe 15% of the satellites they could peer into, which means this vulnerability footprint is likely a lot bigger. Some telecoms moved quickly. For example, the carrier in the US that got caught cited that it patched the issue after the researchers warned them, but many others, especially infrastructure firms, utilities, older remote networks, they have not fully fixed the gap. Researchers say they alerted unnamed US critical infrastructure owners, and they found reluctance, cost hesitancy, or just "we've always done it this way" kind of inertia, so why do we have to change anything now? Don't look up, nobody's gonna worry about this. Obfuscation doesn't work, guys. It doesn't work. So from the military to your local power grid to the plane you're on, if communications link via satellite and they use security through obscurity, i.e. nobody is gonna listen because it's in space, you might be exposed. The researchers even say that they strongly believe intelligence agencies have been tapping this traffic for years. No dish required beyond their own setups. So let's shift from "that's crazy" to what does this mean for us? Well, if your comms, like phone calls, text, IoT devices, remote installs, route through satellites, especially in rural or remote or off-grid spots, ask yourself, are those links encrypted end-to-end or at least encrypted in the channel, like link layer or network layer? If not, you're talking big old exposure, so you might want to fix it. Because we probably can't trust the guys running the satellites to do it for us. Using an app like Signal, WhatsApp, using your own VPN or encrypted tunnel helps, but it starts with knowing your backhaul or whoever's routing your data is not just sending everything in the clear. If you are part of an organization, infrastructure that seems remote or out of sight is not out of threat. A dish on a roof at a university picked up phone calls, texts, utility controls, so the whole remote equals nobody's gonna try it by default is gonna be a myth. And yes, the space part is kind of irrelevant because attackers don't need any kind of rockets, they just need a dish pointed at the right satellite. This also signals a really big policy gap too. Regulators, standard bodies, and procurement folks folks really need to treat satellite backhaul like any other critical network path, because it kind of is. If we say all network traffic must be encrypted, then on-the-ground law and policy must enforce that for the satellite's links too. Now, last thought on this story, it is a huge reminder that security isn't only about software or servers, it's also about infrastructure, assumptions, and what you don't think might be visible. If you assume that nobody is looking, you're probably already behind. So here's what I want you to take from this. If you have devices or services reaching remote areas, ask the vendor, are our satellite links encrypted end-to-end? Can we audit this? For your personal life, assume that some of your comms might pass over satellite links you don't control, so keep using encrypted apps, use VPNs whenever you roam, treat out of sight as out of secure. Okay, I want to take a quick break before the next story because it is officially that season. You know the season. Mariah Carey is thawing. It is the season of peppermint mochas, cozy sweaters. I love this season. And identity thieves also having the time of their lives. The holidays are basically Black Friday for scammers. Everybody is shopping online, everyone's distracted, and everybody is clicking on things that they probably should not be clicking on. Oh, that cool coupon deal that you got in your email? Yeah, it might be fake, so just don't click on it. Like, just go straight to the website instead. If there's a discount, they're gonna advertise it on their website too. This is exactly why I use today's sponsor, which is Delete Me. Delete Me goes through all those creepy data broker sites and they remove your personal information. So I'm talking about your home address, your phone number, your family members' names. All that stuff ends up online without your permission, and scammers absolutely love it. This time of year, those sites get scraped constantly by attackers who are looking for easy targets. And nothing is gonna say holiday spirit like somebody trying to open up a credit card in your name and just gifting themselves all sorts of Christmas presents. Cyber criminals are now even using AI to trick holiday shoppers into clicking on links they shouldn't be clicking on. They're using AI tools to create phishing emails that are even harder to detect. They're using retailer impersonation websites to trick you into putting your credit card number and your billing info into a fake checkout form. So not only do I employ a lot of proper security hygiene whenever I do my own holiday shopping, but I also use Delete Me so potential identity thieves can't find my info and use it to buy stuff under my name. Delete Me makes it so simple. You just sign up, you tell them what data you want removed from the data broker sites, their team gets to work, and you get regular reports showing what they found and what they removed. Honestly, it is the most stress-relieving thing I do during the holidays besides putting my phone on Do Not Disturb and hiding from all my group chats. I am a lurker. So if you want one less thing to worry about this season, definitely check out Delete Me. They are offering 20% off with my code SNUBS at checkout. I have a link down below. My coupon code is exclusively available to my viewers too. So go over to joindeleteme.com/morsecode, use the code SNUBS for 20% off. That's joindeleteme.com/morsecode, 20% off with the coupon code SNUBS. That's SNUBS. There's not two B's in there. I don't know why everybody adds an extra B. There's only one B. So protect your identity, protect your peace, and keep the holiday chaos where it belongs, in the shopping mall parking lot. We don't go to shopping malls during the holiday season, do we, folks? That's right. That place is psychotic. Start saving time and protecting your data today with Delete Me. Thank you so much to Delete Me for sponsoring this video. All right, s'mores, I'm gonna get into a very long story here, but it's a really important one because it impacts a lot of people. So, s'mores, let's talk about something that has been bubbling up for months and is now full on boiling. Flock. Safety. Yeah, you've probably seen their little black cameras perched on poles, at neighborhood entrances, next to shopping centers, at stoplights. They are everywhere. My own dog park has one at each entrance. They're pointed at the dog park. I don't know.
Why are you here? Who needs this at a dog park? Ooh, what's that? Are we creeped out yet?
These things snap photos of the license plates of every car that drives past them. Billions of scans per year. And while Flock claims that they are solving crime, the past few weeks have exposed something a whole lot messier. Weak cybersecurity, massive privacy gaps, legal battles, wrongfully accused civilians, and cities just straight up saying to expanding this surveillance network. So let's break it down. Now, if you run a giant surveillance network and you feed your data directly to to law enforcement, the bare minimum is going to be protecting those law enforcement accounts that can access your servers, right? Right. Now, a group of lawmakers, including Senator Ron Wyden, I see him in every single story that I research and write. Ron is on the case, man. When it comes to cybersecurity, Mr. Wyden, you are there for us, so thank you. Well, he sent a letter to the FTC revealing that police officers' usernames and passwords for Flock systems have been stolen, at least 30 to 35 accounts so far. And here's the kicker: Flock does not require multi-factor authentication. Not optional, not strongly recommended, just straight up missing. Great job, everybody. Somebody can browse a giant surveillance map of American life. That's just awesome. Funny enough, I did have a conversation with an anonymous law enforcement agent right after I posted my first Flock video, and I straight up asked him, does it use two-factor authentication? And he told me his jurisdiction does not. And apparently 2FA just is not a thing here, so that confirms the information that I was given. Yep, just this week I learned even more vulnerabilities in Flock cameras. Now, Ben Jordan on YouTube, he posted a very in-depth video interviewing several security researchers who found even more issues. I highly recommend you go watch his full video. I'm gonna link it down below. I will pin it in the comments because this video is so good. But TLDR, he linked to white papers. There's 47 vulnerabilities listed, from creds to login already being sold on the dark web, the ability to get a root shell on the cameras by pressing buttons, connecting via Wi-Fi and installing your own software, plugging in a USB rubber ducky, because apparently the USB ports are totally wide open on the back, a live website API found in the code on a public-facing demo website, using a Wi-Fi pineapple to de-auth the cameras and man in the middle those connections. Yeah, so everything is fine here. Everything is fine. What the f? Where is my pineapple? I don't even know where my Wi-Fi pineapple is. I probably have like 5 sitting around my studio. USB rubber duckies, I probably have like 20 of those in my studio somewhere. You're telling me somebody could just take one of those and just plug it into one of those? Okay. All right, cool, wonderful. Now let's just talk about who owns the data, shall we? Let's move on before I burn things. Several cities have argued that because Flock is a private company, its footage should not be subject to public record laws. But a recent Washington state ruling flipped that on its head. A judge said that Flock images are public records because government agencies create and use them, even if Flock stores them on its own servers. That means that journalists, researchers, everyday civilians, they have the right to request the data, just like body cam footage or emails from a city department. That's a big deal. On the one hand, you should absolutely be able to see what that tool records if a government agency is using surveillance to track your movement. On the other hand, I could see how this access could be abused by a stalker. Privacy watchdogs have been warning about Flock for years, and they are now stepping in harder than ever. The ACLU and the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF, they are suing the city of Piedmont, California, which has a blanket of Flock cameras covering nearly every road in and out of town. According to the lawsuit, this setup allows police to track every resident and visitor with perfect accuracy, with no clear oversight, retention policy, or transparency about how the data is shared. And the lawsuit also points out something that Flock does not exactly advertise. Flock data can be shared between agencies through a gigantic national network. So if you drive into one city, but law enforcement in a city 2 states away decides that they want your plate data for some reason, they can request it and boom, it's shared. No warrant, no notice, no accountability. So let's talk about real world harm. Actually, this story happened right here in the city that I live in. So in Colorado, there's this woman named Chrisana Elser who was falsely accused of stealing packages because her car kind of matched one seen in a Flock alert, and her license plate passed a camera hours later. That's it. That was the entire basis for the accusation. She had to prove her innocence using her own receipts and footage from her Rivian because the police insisted the system does not lie. And the Denver Police Department said that they would reprimand the officer who was mishandling the Flock data. The entire video is available to watch online, but I had this very visceral reaction to how accusatory this officer was and the way that he was just talking down to her the whole time. Oh, it made my blood boil. I was so mad for her. I'm glad that she made the entire interaction public because seriously, dude,
Like I said, we have cameras everywhere in that town. You can't get a breath of fresh air in or out without us knowing.
Right.
You know the quality on the camera doorbell you have.
Yep.
I've got that on my phone right now of you taking that back. Okay, well then I'll make this easy. Since you're just going to deny it, I'm going to issue you a summons that you'll be showing up in court in Jefferson County.
Well, can I see this video?
If you go to court, you can. If you're going to deny it, I'm not going to extend you any courtesy. If you're going to lie to me, only time on Tuesday.
Kind of funny because we have cameras on our truck, so we can show you exactly where we were. Why can't we see it now?
Because you have not been honest with me, so I'm not going to extend you any courtesy of showing you a video when I don't need to.
But I can show you videos.
No, you cannot.
Yes, I can
show you.
Okay, show me then.
No, you're not being honest with me.
All right, we're getting our attorney.
Now, this is not the only story that really hits close to home for me. In a recent interview, our own mayor here in Denver said that a woman's murder case was solved by using the flock cameras. Here's a video.
You know, we had a trans woman who was kidnapped and murdered, picked up in Denver, Lakewood. We solved that crime because Denver and Lakewood could talk to each other across a flock camera database.
That's not true.
He couldn't be talking about my daughter.
Sherry Gattalk-Camus now knows the mayor was in fact talking about her daughter, Jax Gattalk.
Jack's case is not solved. Flock cameras had nothing to do with finding the perpetrators.
The mayor's office is now offering an apology to Jax's mom, saying the Lakewood police case is ongoing and said in part, quote, "We should have spoken with her family before referencing the case. We offer our deepest apologies for any additional stress this has caused."
As soon as I saw this interview, I was like, is he talking about Jax? I immediately knew that he was lying because one of my very good Sailor Mooney friends was a really good friend with Jax, and they have been advocating for them to find the person who did this to her, and her case has not been solved. He straight up lied about Jax's case on camera and said it was because of these cameras. He said that the flock cameras helped solve this case. This is the same mayor who also signed a contract to keep using the cameras in the Denver metro against the unanimous council vote. It's getting so bad. Oakland voted down expanding their flock contract after intense public comment. Cities in Washington state are turning off their ALPR systems entirely because of the legal ruling that makes images subject to public disclosure. Across the country, city councils are starting to realize they bought into a high surveillance system pitched like a Ring camera for your neighborhood. Yay, it'll save us. They're not recognizing the massive civil liberties risks until after deployment. I see this happening and I think about what my stalker from a decade ago could have done with that data, what that man could have done if he had access to this data and he was able to see my whereabouts. They were so concerned with stopping criminals by recording them, but they aren't taking into account potential problems, like when logins are hacked or transparency fails, when citizens are misidentified. The consequences fall on everyday people, not executives, not investors, people like that Colorado woman who had to prove that she didn't steal a package from somebody's porch based on where her car was and what road it was driving on. So this is a foundational privacy issue that affects almost every community in the US. So if your city has flock cameras or is considering them, start asking questions like who can access the footage? Is the data shared? How long is it stored? Is there an oversight committee? Is MFA required? Can you request the images under public record laws? What are the safeguards in place to protect innocent people from bad matches? Maybe we should start watching the watchers. Now, speaking of that, we have a couple of ways to figure out where these things are installed, including deflock.me, but I actually found a few cameras in my own community that weren't even listed on this map. So then I got into this conversation with a hacker named Colonel Panic, who offered to send me one of their physical detection tools, which is called the OUI Spy. Now, I will be honest, I have not donned my hacker hat in a really long time, but I am so down with doing some real world war driving. Or are we calling it flock driving? That was a really long story. Let's end it with something that doesn't affect us directly. Unless you go to the Louvre. So ironically, I just watched Ocean's 8. Love Sandra Bullock. I don't care how you feel about that movie. I love Sandra Bullock. She's amazing. The actual world famous Louvre in Paris is now scrambling to patch some pretty shocking security gaps after a massive heist. So here's the tea. Back on October 19th, a group of thieves somehow managed to break into the Apollo Gallery and they walked off with 8 pieces from France's crown jewel collection. So we're talking about roughly, I don't know, $110 $2 million worth of treasure just vanishing. And let me just say, the way they got in is wild. So according to reports, they used a freight lift and a truck-mounted cherry picker. Imagine seeing somebody just pull up to the super fancy museum, like world famous museum, with a literal construction crane and being like, "Bonjour, we're just here to steal some priceless royal artifacts." It worked. Anyway, they slipped in, they grabbed the jewels, and they were gone. During a hearing, the Louvre's own director admitted that there were some absolutely glaring holes in their security setup. Apparently, only one perimeter camera covered the area, and it was not even pointed towards the gallery that was robbed. And the password to their surveillance system, it was literally Louvre. I wish I were kidding. You can't make this stuff up. It was Louvre. So now the Louvre is kicking into full crisis mode, announcing more than 20 emergency security measures. We are talking about like anti-intrusion systems, beefed up perimeter protection, around 100 fresh surveillance cameras are gonna go up in the museum over the next year. They even announced that they're building an actual police station on site, and they're appointing a dedicated security coordinator, which is kind of cool, like from a security perspective. It's really neat to see this kind of physical security happening, but it should have been there in the first place. Some of the fixes are happening within days, but other ones, like all those new cameras, they won't be fully deployed until late next year, and that's where the big lesson is. This is a perfect reminder that security is not just about firewalls, it's not just about encryption keys. Physical access also matters. In fact, physical penetration. Actually, never mind. I was gonna tell you a whole story about physical penetration, but I know where your minds go. I know what kind of comments I was about to get, so never mind. I'm just gonna say physical access. Operational culture matters. Password hygiene is a huge, huge importance. That definitely matters. And if you're relying on something like, "We'll fix it next year," congratulations, because you've created a giant vulnerability window for anybody paying attention. So the Louvre's director said that she wants to instill a genuine security culture, and honestly, that's the real takeaway. You can't just sprinkle in some cameras and hope for the best. You need people thinking about security every day, in every department, at every door. Holistic security, layered defense. I feel like that's the moral of like the videos I've been recording this week. Is just layered defense. That's it for this week's episode of Snubs on Security. Huge thank you to Delete Me for sponsoring this episode, and to my incredible Patreon s'mores for keeping the show running. If you want to join the s'mores, get early access, and hang out with us on Discord, check out patreon.com/Shannon Morse, and do not forget to snag your discount over at Delete Me at joindeleteme.com/Morse code. As always, stay safe, stay secure, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.